achieve. And get him more involved with our community. Folks, take a moment to follow Michael here on the stage. We got him here. If you're listening to one of our recordings, come click on over to X, check out Michael DeBoard and give him a follow. We also do have Artistry on stage, one of the live musicians, a community member, and somebody who just brings a whole different flavor of innovation here into the mix.
Everyone, I followed Michael too. Big love.
I love it. I love it. Look at that. Even the folks on Shout Out following.
Let's go. I'm ready.
So, folks, let's
I'm ready to go.
Here. As I mentioned,
ready.
Innovators Think Tank. We are live. We are in the flesh here on week number 91. 91 weeks of helping anybody who has a project, a business, or an idea to collaborate with folks who have different backgrounds, different talents, different experiences. And at the intersection of that, week after week after week, we hold it as a value that collaboration is the new currency. Without any doubt that working with folks who have different backgrounds from different parts of the world unearths new opportunities to create impact in our life, in our business, in our communities. So I want to thank you for joining me. You could be anywhere on Saturday and you're choosing to be here at the ITT, or you're catching our recording, and even more so, we appreciate you tuning in. Very quickly, I want to share that the ITT ecosystem, innovatorsthinktank.com, is growing rapidly. Folks who are in the room who have yet to connect your X account into the ecosystem of innovators, I recommend taking a moment. Go to that Jumbotron, hit on innovatorsthinktank.com. You can just connect easily your X account. You say, hey, I'll sign in with X. Boom. Hit yes, and now you're locked in. We have a new platform coming. We have, a big shout out to our CTO in the audience here, Luke in the audience. He's the Chief Technical Officer here at the ITT. What he has been building, what we have been building as a team is absolutely incredible. And folks who are already signed up for the platform, you're going to get that first access, that first onboarding, and you don't want to give that up. You want to be the first crew on this new platform. So go and create an account if you haven't already while we're doing this introduction. The Incubator G2 of a specific vertical is going to be live here in the next few weeks. We already had our Group 1 of the incubator. We're really excited to welcome in Group 2. If you would like to submit for that, head on over to our website, check out the courses, and you'll see the Incubator G2. Ideas to Impact is coming to a close on Wednesday. So we have our Season 9, Week 6 of Ideas to Impact will be this weekend on Wednesday. If you want to come check out what innovators have been building over 6 weeks with the Tech in Schools initiative and with other partners, this is an awesome place to come and see what they're all about and maybe make the decision to come and join us for season 10. These are not paid for things. These are totally free. These are partners like DigitalOcean, cPanel, Tech in Schools, mobilizing capital and digital backpack resources to help you build. We'd love to have you guys starting on season 10. The X community on my profile, if you just click on it, you look at it, we have 4,500 innovators who have joined us over the last 2 years just here on X, who have clicked join that community. Please go and join that. We put all dates, times, and agendas right there inside the community. If you're live with us, I notice a lot of you are already posting in the comment section. I can see them flooded. But folks, go and take a minute. Tell me like why you're here. Why come to something called the Innovators Think Tank? What are you building? What are you working on? If you don't put it out there, if you don't stand for it, it makes it so hard to progress it. It makes it so hard to collide it with other great ideas. This is a great space to go ahead and post in the bottom right-hand corner what you're doing here and why you're doing it. 60-second pitch sign-up is done on the website, and we will likely have a few pitches later in the session. All right, those are the housekeeping notes. Storming into the agenda, we have a second expert speaker. Andy is in the room, ready to rock, on good timing as always. Andy, so good to have you back in this Innovators Think Tank. So many folks in the room follow you around from space to space. They support what you do kind of across the X community and offline. And we love having you in the room. And I think that this topic, as Michael alluded to a few times, is so important, right? A raw material, sort of a raw ingredient of collaboration is trust. It's very hard to collaborate without that degree of trust, to build teams, to take ideas to the impact that we want to see. So without any further ado, Andy, let me give you the mic. Feel free to give an introduction if you feel so fit for any folks in the room who want to know more about you. And then let's dive into it. We have about the next 45 to 60 minutes to try to understand what the heck is trust and how do we build it. My friend, Mike is all yours. Good to see you.
Well, hi, Josh. Thanks again. Can you just give me a mic check? I'm just making sure that you guys can hear me.
We got you. You sound great.
Because I joined earlier. I was on the co-host, and then I don't know, it like kicked me down to listener and kicked me off, and like, cool, okay, back. All right. Okay, so let's talk about trust. What is it? How do we build it? So here's something that you would probably like to have happen to you. I was sitting in a meeting with like 45 people. And I was introduced as, hey, this is Andy. This is the guy that if you get pulled away and somebody has to watch over your house, your home, your wife, your dogs, your kids, this is your guy. That's how I was introduced. Okay. Now that seems like it's a fantastic, way to describe, I trust Andy and I'm giving you my trust. I'm giving you edification of this guy. Right. And it was great. Except I tried, ever since that time, I've been thinking about what actually is trust, right? And so the talk today is about defining trust, explaining what it is and how do we build it. And I teased earlier where I said, trust isn't what you think it is, right? And we're going to talk about that for just a minute. So what is the definition of trust? Well, the classical view, Socrates, Aristotle, Plato's writings, right? The idea of trust is tied to virtue and your goodwill, right? And the biblical perception is it says in Proverbs 3, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. And then it goes on later in Proverbs to talk about don't lean on other people either. Well, what's the modern definition of trust? Well, the modern definition of trust is basically reliability, integrity shaped by your own expectations. That's the Andy summary, right? I'm not sure that's true, not. I'm sure we can argue it. I'm sure that there's lots of philosophers that would have an interesting discussion with that. But we're just going to take those ideas to start with, right? So what do you think trust is? It's consistency for lack of any other terms. Trust is ultimately the other person's decision based on their reality, right? Trust isn't what I think. Trust is what you think of me. Do you trust me? It's based on your expectations. It's based on your perception, your personal moral compass, your personal set of criteria and ethics and all of those things, and whether or not I behave in the way that you perceive as being trustworthy. So trust isn't what you think it is. It's what the other people think it is. And so the other person's perception and the other person's expectation filter your consistency through their filters and perceptions as their perception of trustworthiness. And I've got some really amazing examples to talk about. All right. So what really is trust? Trust is ultimately the other person, the receiver's decision based on their reality. For example, Jesus was trustworthy. If you believe in the Bible, cool. I can see that maybe there's people who don't, but that's okay. Pick your favorite religious figure. I'm going to use Jesus for this example. Jesus was trustworthy, had no failures, did never do anything wrong. And yet the Pharisees and the Sadducees had a different expectation of what he should be doing. And that misaligned expectation not only led to mistrust, led to outright anger, frustration, and wanting to kill him. Right? So is trust an internal thing, or is it an external trust? All trust starts internally with you looking at your expectations of what other people should do, how other people should operate, how they should react, what they behave, how they think. What is that in alignment with your expectations or not? And the other view, right? And so that internal trust to myself is me aligning my behaviors and actions and words and statements with what I think is the expectation of integrity and character and all of those things. But I can't force Josh to believe that. I can't force Sharon or Cash or Gnostic to go, yeah, Andy's trustworthy because he said so. It doesn't matter what I do or say. It's what I do or say filtered through your mind. And so I want to take this idea of trustworthiness and kind of blow it apart, because trustworthiness in the classical definition, in the classical writings, in the way people talk about it, it doesn't really exist. What does exist is my perception of what my wife does, what my children do, what my friends do, what my partners do, what my clients do, what my potential clients do, what the audience does, what the speakers do, what they say, how they respond, what they do. If I have a certain level of expectations and they breach that, I have a choice. My choice is that okay or not? Is that okay according to me or not? Does that mean that they're trustworthy or not? To some degree, it's a made up idea. But we all use the word trust. We all think it's critical and important. But I had an interesting debate in the past that went something like this. So if trust is the important thing, how do you align things with people who don't believe in you or don't like you? Philosophically, my answer is maybe I don't care. Maybe it's okay for them to disagree with me. Maybe it's totally fine for them to have a different perception than I have, for them to have a different worldview and a different perspective. And maybe that's just fine. Maybe I don't need to change anything about what I'm doing in order to win over their quote unquote trust. Maybe it's different. Because see, trust can be compartmentalized. It's not everything all the time, all the way with Andy. Maybe you don't like the way I talk, but you like what I say, or you like the message. Or maybe you don't like the message, but you like the way the words come out of my mouth, or the frequency or the pace at which I talk. It doesn't matter, right? Because it's about your perception of what I'm saying, not about me. Because like Jesus, he was trustworthy. He was 100% trustworthy. And yet other people listened to him and went, yeah, nah, that's not it. Nope, he's wrong. fully believing themselves that they were right. Okay. And by the way, I was trying to make a point about Jesus, not trying to compare me to Jesus. That's not cool. I'm not that. I am way down in the, like, trying to, not be a horrible, terrible person, let alone being perfect. Jesus was perfect. So I didn't want to apply that. It sounded that way in my brain. I just want to say that. Let's talk about relationships. Our relationships build on trust. A lot of people say they are, but that means they're built on each person's perspective or perception of what the other person does in alignment with their expectations. Wow, that's freaking hard. Maybe likability is a lot easier. It's a lot easier to like me than to trust me. It's a lot easier to like somebody than to trust them. Maybe relationships can start with likability to drive cooperation, to drive context, and then compartmentalize it so that it can separate from some of your personal feelings. Because I trust some of my business partners explicitly, right? Even though we do not have the same religious beliefs. And yet I can trust them with business because they've demonstrated that they're going to do the things they say they're going to do. And so I believe them. Cool. But it's not 100%. I don't think it ever is. And so the idea that is trust isn't what you think it is. It's what they think it is. And on the other side, you trusting somebody else isn't what they're doing. It's what you think they're doing. Because maybe they're right and you have the wrong idea. And that will cause you to mistrust them, even though they're right and they're doing all the right things. Trust is a very challenging thing. So, okay, that's the framework. That's the baseline. That's the challenge. Now, what can...
Just as
go ahead.
I noticed that Max has a hand up. Max, it's always good to see you.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go for it.
Yeah. If there's any question, kind of as we're rolling through here, let's do it. And very quickly, there's sort of the sentiment that when I communicate with people, they don't hear what I said. They hear what they heard, right? They hear what... And so it's so important to ask, hey, what did you understand by what I just said there? Maybe that same type of thing applies with trust. Maybe there's some grounds of cultivating trust there, even in our communication, that what you say is what I meant, and so on. Max Morales, grab that mic. What do you think?
Hey, Josh. Hello, everybody. Yeah, you just made me think about, I have one question, because trust is a thing that go after us if you are in any country, and it's really hard. I'm Chilean, but I live in Mexico and Texas, and I've been navigating in cruise ships. And I've been having a lot of business partners that they were really bad. So now for me, trust is very complicated because I don't want to partner with anybody. How you can somehow, particularly now that you're doing business, we can do business with other people from other countries. Besides signing a contract, if they want, they are not going to pay you. How you solve that problem of trust? Because I'm seeing in agreements for people from X and from other platforms to start moving business to South America. You just have to do it.
Max, that's such a great question. And for those, I do. For those who don't know, I've lived all over the world. I've worked in Turkey and Greece and Romania and France and Egypt. I've lived in all those places for significant years, about 10 years altogether, and other places as well. I've had teams internationally all over the world for decades. And the most important thing you have to understand, or you have to accept, really accepting is the first part, is maybe they have a different way of looking at the way you do it. I'm going to use traffic and driving as an example, okay? In the United States, we drive in the lanes. We signal or kind of signal, or we move the car. We signal either directly or indirectly that we're going to turn. And while you're sitting at a light or sitting watching people drive by, you're mentally checking, are they going to turn? Do they have their light on? Do they have their blinkers on? Do you know if they're going to turn? Do you trust if they're going to turn? Do you believe the expectation of what you think is going to happen happens or not? If they do it or don't do it, okay, whatever. It's not that big a deal. Okay. But if you go live in the Middle East, let's talk about Cairo. The only rule is they drive on one side of the road, and they go wherever there's space for their car, and they honk when they're going past you. So if you're ever in Cairo, it is a cavalcade of car honks. Beep, 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 beep. It never ends. It is constant. It is everywhere. But those are the rules that they live by. That is their expectation of driving, not my expectation of how driving should be. Because if I look at it and think, you're not even in the lanes, those lights, they are kind of suggestions. If there's traffic going through them, they just keep going. But it's about my expectation, not about how it really is. So, Max, maybe one thing you can think of is, how do they operate in Egypt, in Chile, in Mexico? How do they transfer money? How do they come to an agreement where they actually exchange money for value or services or products? How do they actually do it? Not what you think they do, but what they actually do, and then reset your expectations about what it is. Because dealing with people in Romania, I'll give you another example. Dealing with people in Romania and dealing with people in Greece are totally different. People in Greece think more like Americans, and people in Romania think more like the old Soviet Union. It's pretty, okay, it's common. Easy to see the correlation, but here's the difference. In Romania, here's the data center, and here's the rules and the policy and procedure of all the steps that have to happen. They will simply do every single step, including doing something that is total BS just to do the check so they can check 100% of the check boxes. In Greece, they would say, why are we doing that? That's stupid. And then the guys would say, well, we have to do it. It's because it's the checkbox. And the Greek guys would say, yeah, that's stupid. Just eliminate that. Change the rule. Change the rules. Americans will say, that's a dumb rule. I don't need to do that. I'm not doing it until somebody complains about it, and then I'll add it back in. We'll just delete it. In Greece, they'll say, well, we'll change rules. In Romania, they're like, we will do everything. We might avoid the rules. We'll go under them, around them. We'll do all kinds of machinations to make it happen, but we'll make sure that we hit every checkbox. And yet the result is we all end up doing the exact same thing, but the thinking about it is what's the difference. Does that help, Max?
Oh yeah, totally. When you have a transaction, for example, for any things you're gonna do, because nobody wants to pay in advance. In Chile, we ask 50% in advance. But then when you work with famous people or people that they are very well known, you have to trust. So the only thing I can do is just make an agreement and make it a little bit, exposed to show the agreement and a press release where they can feel obligated to pay me if we do business. But it's not easy.
Well,
I'm having really bad partners in Chile in person that to do business. So I appreciate your and you're probably going to get in that situation. There are good actors and bad actors, and they're going to get burnt. Oh, Gnostic, I see you drop down. I was going to go right to you next. Yeah, you're probably going to get burned because there are bad actors no matter what you do, right? Nobody's perfect. The world isn't perfect. You're going to find all kinds of good and bad things. And, you just need to understand at some point there's risk. That risk profile includes people taking advantage of you and not paying you. Just the way it is.
Max, I love the question. It's such an interesting landscape, the international sort of globalized world with different cultures that have completely different ways of conducting business, now requiring trust in order to serve the value across the different places that they are. This is a very real issue. Anything else that you want to share, Max? And then I do want to go to Gnostic, and then also Chief Dinger we have up here. Good to see you, my friend. I love your comment that it really is, sort of these two opposing forces that are working together. We'll let you talk more on it, Chief. Max, any more thoughts that you want to give to Andy before we go over to Gnostic and Chief?
Just having a quest to attract people like you guys to Chile. A lot of events here. I already brought to Chile. I flew the former operations manager of WhatsApp, who lives in Austin, in a big event that we did last year. So think about Chile because we have a lot of money in startups. I can let you know more information about that, but I want to make X a real thing and make it real. If you're traveling to South America, come here and visit. We can do business. So thank you.
Max, I love how you're always advocating for increasing the landscape of innovation out in Chile and always trying to collaborate. I double down on that. Gnostic, let's go over your way. Any questions, comments, or thoughts? And very quickly, everybody in the room has dealt with this. We've all built trust. We've all lost it. We've all placed it. My goodness, the world requires it to some extent. And so if you're in the room and you've had, times where you've spent a lot of time building trust and it was compromised by just a few actions, or if you feel like you have a great way of summing up how we can think about it as innovators, as folks who want to collaborate, come grab the mic. We would love to hear from you. Gnostic, let me give it to you, sir. Any comments, questions, or thoughts for Andy? Really important topic that we have here today. Always good to have you. What do you got?
What I've learned the hard way is anytime anybody says, trust me, I dig a little deeper. But the side of that, the corollary of that is trust, but always verify. It's not that you don't trust somebody. It's just you want to verify what they said. So given the opportunity, you trust, but you verify, and then always verify right through. And when you're talking about different cultures, I still like the negotiations for a camel that people do at camel sales. The things they say aren't important. What's actually going on is the hands in between. Because the hands in between are indicating what the actual bid is for the camel, so nobody else actually knows what he paid for the camel. So even though you're sitting down and arguing with somebody, that's one part of it. Chinese, the guy that's the quietest one at the table in the room, or at the table you're negotiating with, is the person you have to pay the most attention to. And the guy that's speaking really isn't important because he's asking the questions for that guy.
Yep, he's the mouth.
And so you really have to be careful that you understand the culture. I always try and hire a local, preferably woman, because they're capable of doing multiple channel stuff that I'm just not. I'll focus on something, I'll look right at it, and I'll literally ignore everything else in the room, because my tendency, and most men's tendency, is to focus on who you're talking to and all the rest of the stuff. And I will miss cues in the room because I'm just so focused on that one thing. A woman will pick out stuff that I'm going to completely miss, and then she typically will poke me in the ribs or say something else and say, no, you should actually be paying attention over here.
Yeah.
And particularly in places like China and other places where the subtlety is the person who actually has the power is not going to be the speaker. He's going to let somebody else speak in front of him so he doesn't lose face relative to what's happening in the room. And you have to realize in some of these cultures, face is the most important thing in the room. And in fact, in Japan, or in some places in China too, you start negotiating with somebody and they're all talk and everything else until the real boss walks into the room. And then all of a sudden they agree with everything he says, whether it's right or wrong. They're still going to agree with him. And now you have another negotiating issue, another trust issue, because how do you trust what they said before when they're going exactly the opposite direction now that the other person walked into the room? So those cultural conflicts are really difficult to negotiate, particularly around the concept of trust. Because you're just completely lost in it. So any input on those, I'd love to have, because I always get mixed up in those.
Well, Gnostic, okay, so two things. The first is they're difficult to deal with because you have a set of expectations that it's going to go a certain way, and that when they say something, that's what they mean. And in reality, that's not true. And in my executive coaching, I almost always teach that we create a barking dog scenario. And the barking dog is kind of what we do in the US Congress, right? There's a whip and there's a majority leader, and the whip's job is to say all the stuff, express all of the frustration, and say the challenging things, and ask the pointed questions, and almost be blunt, rude, and disrespectful, so that they can get everything out on the table, so that eventually whoever sits in the chair can yank the chain and the barking dog goes whoop, and then they back off. And then the next group gets in there, and it's like, okay, now that we've got everything out on the table, now let's start taking things off. And then they start knocking those things around, and they talk about it kind of like moving chess pieces around on the board, but they're not really moving the chess pieces. They're deciding which ones to keep and which ones to throw away. And then at the very end, the boss goes, yeah, okay, just I don't want that one over there, but the rest of them are okay. And then everybody goes, yes. Think of it more like, if you think of negotiations more like a military organization, the privates, the sergeants, the lieutenants, the captains, the majors, the colonels, the generals, and then whoever the chief of staff is, right? Well, whoever is the highest rank wins. And there's always a ranking situation. One of the interesting things I was going to mention about trust is the best way to get out, to step away from being engaged in that situation where you're stuck in your own expectations and swimming in what the hell's going on, is to eliminate the hierarchy of what's going on and just try to become the most comfortable person in the room. If you are comfortable and unshakable, and no matter what they say doesn't affect you, you by default move yourself off the board, and you are no longer a pawn or a rook or a king or whatever. You're not on the board. You're not even the guy moving the board. You become the chess player. And that is ultimately what you want to at least see or appear as, or to be able to see as. And the way that you do that is to stop worrying about, is he more important than me? Is she more important than that person? If they're talking today, is that person over there the really well in charge? It's like, if you just become, I'm cool with whoever you bring in front of me. I'm the best batter in the world. Bring up all the pitchers you have in the bullpen. I'm good. And if you can start to just imagine putting yourself in that mindset works everywhere, because humans are humans. Whether they put those barrier filters in front of you, which is really all it is. It's like a test. Here's this guy, he's going to bark and scream. Okay, fine. Then here's this other lady, and she's going to cry and complain. Okay, next. And then here's the next one who's going to come in and then the next one come in. And then finally the boss goes, okay, so now that we've got all that out of the way, what exactly do you want? I mean, the Japanese are famous for bringing you in for a 3-day conference, taking you out to dinner, taking you to this, going here, taking you on a tour, whatever. And then literally while you're driving to the airport, negotiating the price on the way to the airport as you literally have to step out of the cab. Because what they're trying to do is create an environment where you trust them so that they can get leverage, because that's the way they do it there, right? They're polite, they're gracious, they're gentle, the way it works the whole time, right? The one way to help combat your own personal feelings in these situations is to become comfortable in the, hey, we're walking through manure and it's knee deep and it's dark and I can't see anything and it sounds like there are wolves and animals and stuff ready to jump on me. And if you can just get to the point where you go, yeah, I'm cool with that. Like, no big deal. If they come, we'll either get them or it's over. And then they turn the lights on and it's all a show. They're like, okay, fine. Right. Whatever the situation is, the more comfortable you can be in it, the more you will be able to be in control and see things for what they are, not for what you're presenting. And let's just be clear. In America, we do the exact same thing. We set up the organizational structure. We talk about, you're going to say this, and then I'm going to respond this way, and then I'm going to do this, and we orchestrate the same way. We just orchestrate. It's just a different show. And if you just recognize that it is a show, and it's okay because you must go through that vetting process, because that's part of it. You don't become trustworthy enough unless you have somebody who spent $5 with you, and then $250 with you, and then $2,500 with you, and then a couple $1,000 for you to ask for somebody to pay you $25,000 a month. No one's going to just go, okay, cool, unless they've earned in their own mind some perception of you trust in that you're going to deliver. Right? So we do the same thing. And it's on my notes. The last 2 points are very simple. The challenges in building trust are, it's about them. Mismatch expectations. It'll block trust with them. You can be consistent in your actions. You can do the exact same thing. And one organization can think you're a freaking superstar, and the other one can think you're a piece of crap. There is zero you can do about that. Zero. You can do nothing. Nothing. Okay, I'm going to say it again. You can do nothing. You have to be you, and either they're going to believe or not. It's up to them, right? And then,
before we go into the last 2 points, I saw Gnostic got a hand up. In case there was any initial feedback to some of the thoughts there, Gnostic, grab that mic. And then Chief Dinger, if you had a thought, feel free to put the hand up. We'd love to go your way and hear anything you got to say, my friend. Andy, something that's on the top of my mind that I just want you to maybe think about, and maybe your wisdom could kind of shed some light on this over time. What's the correlation between truth and trust, and our perception of truth, and what we give trust to? And I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on that here in a moment.
Let's go
over to Gnostic.
Yeah, go to Gnostic.
Anything that you wanted to add on to some of the notes as we continue to go through this incredible topic? What do you got, my friend?
Oh, I think that Andy just expanded on Never Split the Difference, the negotiator for the FBI group.
Exactly. It's a great book.
And you just expanded on part of the difference of, first face the fears and the emotional part. But what you're saying is have straw dogs in the room, pulling out all of the fears and all of the rest of the stuff, so they're not the thing that pops out at the last. And in the Japanese process, where you're sitting down and doing it, the Japanese do all of that with the drinking, the spending money, doing all the rest of the stuff. They deal with your fears, other fears, all of the rest of the fears. But the important part in a lot of negotiations, particularly people who are good negotiators, is none of the stuff up until the last 2 minutes matters.
Exactly.
It's all a measure. And it's the last 2 minutes where the most important stuff is going to start, because now you're dealing with the most important people in the room.
Yeah, and if you don't do the other 98% of it, those last 2 minutes, they just go, thank you very much, and off you go. You don't get the negotiation unless you pass the first 98 tests, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
My friend, what do you got? We'll go your way. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts here for Andy? And also, I just want to take a quick moment. And Andy, I love having you on this ITT, especially for topics like this. I think that this is sort of, not that you're not a technical guy, but the bread and butter of being able to articulate these points, I think, is so valuable for people here. So I wanted to take a minute and just say, love this discussion. Chief, let me go over to you, my friend. Anything you want to share before we keep charging?
Yeah, thanks for letting me up. Appreciate the conversation. It's going amazing. I've got a lot to say about that, because trust is basically the integral part of the fusion and channeling and creating deals per se. That's the natural order of the universe, is literally fusion. And I come at life nowadays from a whole different dynamic as compared to general relativity, which I was grown up taught as was like the most unified field theory. It makes everything work. It's explainable of matter itself, but that's not the case. The electric universe is much more indicative of how things work holistically. Like, it explains a lot of the sun's phenomena and Earth's phenomena as well. Basically, what I'm trying to say is fusion is how we understand everything. It's the way things create. It's truth and trust and abundance. It's here. Unfortunately, in the world we live in, it's not like the ancient megastructures, civilizations that obviously lived in abundance. Today we live in consumerism, which is really unnatural. There's nothing more unnatural.
Mastermind, before I go over to you, my friend, if you wouldn't mind keeping that mic muted and just toss a hand up, I promise you, anybody who's on this stage with a hand up, I will be sure to go over to. And Chief, real quick. Oh, you're good. Mastermind, no problem at all, my friend. And Chief, I love the point of fusion, that this is like somewhat of a natural state of things. It's interesting that we don't just have a bunch of dispersed elements. That's, at a very fundamental layer of nature, things are collaborating, things are coming together to create more complexity. And I think that there's a lot within that we can learn. So I appreciate you highlighting that and bringing some of those points up. Again, I don't know who it was that was chatting there for a moment. If you have any questions on this stage, my friends, put that hand up. And if you're on a PC, I know if you're on the computer, you can't put a hand up. So just put a bunch of emojis up, and we'll be happy to get you into the discussion here. Edith, good to see you, my friend. It's been a while. We had you on for an expert speaker And then I know that you're a builder, you're an innovator, you're an inventor, so you're busy. But Edith, any thoughts, any questions about this idea of trust? This is foundational to us as founders, us as team builders, us as innovators. What's your thought?
Hi. Well, I would like to ask you a question later, but about trust. Recently, just a few days ago, I decided to create a small team for R&D out of the company, because after a while, engineers and you all together start creating your own walls and boxes without knowing. You lose your creativity. And I noticed that we are doing great engineering, but we are creating more bulky stuff and more parts and more things just going on, piling up. And I am a creative person, therefore I find a problem. I want to break the box from overseas. I want to hire 3 engineers. I already communicated with them, very great engineers in related area, and I wanted to hire them for 6 months. In fact, to invite them here too. But my co-founders, they expressed lack of trust. One of them we trust. He has been with us working once a while as a contractor. But the other 2, they work in an area that the same field, but of course, technologically they are way behind. They feel they could copy and stuff. It's very tough. Of course, we have a lot of intellectual properties, patents, but trust came there. And now I am a trusting person, mostly as a default. But life, unfortunately, makes us not to trust, especially they are in foreign country, in overseas. And I have just something maybe over here someone could help me out regarding. I never thought that I'm an accidental entrepreneur, by the way. I'm an inventor, but because of my sons, I became an entrepreneur. Initially, we thought that we'll have difficulty to get customers, but we have more than we want. In fact, top companies in top 20, top 50, they are calling us. They wanted to have this product. We have no problem with that. And initially we struggled to get money, but now we have more money than we need. We are rejecting VC companies. And these are the 2 issues. It is way beyond our expectation. However, the problem right now we have to scale up to find great engineers.
And Edith, I just want to tap in real quick, because just as a note, Andy is kind of going through in the same way with your expert segment. Folks, if you weren't here for Edith's expert segment a few ITTs ago, he talked about resilience. And Edith has an incredible life story and has built some incredible things. And we got to hear from him about how he developed that resilience and so much more on top of that. Edith, after this expert segment here with Andy, where we're kind of talking about trust and trying to understand more about it and dig through the onion layers that it is, we have a segment right after this, before AI demos, where I want to hear from founders in the room and builders like you, leaders like you, what challenges you're having and perhaps who you're looking to connect with and collaborate with to maybe move further to impact. So for right now, as far as that note, if you wouldn't mind, we're just going to continue this discussion for maybe about 20 or 30 minutes. And then I would love, if you stay on stage, please do. We'll go right to you. And please share more about these challenges you're facing and maybe innovators in the room, how they could be helpful or share a connection in their network that may be able to be helpful. So let's do that. And Andy, again, I know I planted sort of a note on your head. I'm sitting here, I have it circled a few times because we keep saying the word truth. We keep kind of saying it, and then we go back to trust. And I think about that a lot. Like, what is this correlation? And we have 2 hands up, but maybe just to get us back on track with where we're at with trust, could you talk about that? How does the truth correlate to trust? And, does it have anything to do with what trust is and how we build it?
Well, yeah, great question. So in the vein of discussion we're having around what is trust? How do you build it? It's not what you think it is, it's what they think it is. You have to recognize that there is no universal moral standard, and that complicates all of the perspectives. And because there is no universal moral standard, it has a challenge, because truth in most people's mind is what they believe it is, right? There are some universal things, right? We can say things like, we can measure gravity. We don't know what it is. We don't know what causes it. We think we do. We've got good calculations, but it still literally could be a giant element in the middle of every one of the celestial objects that is gravity. Okay, could be. We don't know. Could be some other truth.
You had a hand, Andy. I just wanted to say to Chief, my friend here on the ITT, I know you're brand new, and what I wanted to say is, my goodness, am I glad to have your perspective here. And I saw the hand go up in response to this, so I want you to know, even before we bring in Russ and David, we're definitely going to give you that mic, my friend, and I can read a room and see that you have some things to say. But Andy, apologies for stepping on toes. Please keep going, my friend.
No worries, right? This is a discussion, not an Andy's lecture, right? I'm not preaching. I'm not on a pulpit. I'm just here to share and to learn. Because listen, maybe 80% of what I'm saying is right, and some of it's wrong. Maybe 90%. Maybe it's 10% right, 90% wrong. I'm fine with being corrected. What I was going to say is, because there's no universal moral standard, right? We all believe truth is what we think it is. We can measure the speed of light, but we can debate whether or not it's always been the same thing over time. We don't know. We can see that it's slowing down. Is it slowing down at a constant rate, at a variable rate? We don't know. The moon is moving 3 inches away from the earth every single year. Does that mean it was closer earlier? Seems likely. How do we know? We don't know, right? There are a lot of things that we're calling truth, and then we use that in our own minds to create a perspective or a perceived likelihood of that kind of event happening. And so we use that perceived expectation to create expectation. Sorry, somebody called me. We use that perception to create an expectation, and then we filter everybody else through that expectation to value or determine whether they're trustworthy or not. And so the problem with truth is that various different ethnic and religious groups will disagree on what truth is. That truth, again, basic value chain, truth creates perception and expectation of behavior. Those behaviors, if they fall in alignment, become trustworthy. If they're out of alignment, they become untrustworthy. Pretty simple method, but it's what causes lots and lots of, because I'm a Christian, I'm an American, I'm a 6'2" white guy from California who speaks like I have the same accent as what's on TV and the movies, right? I have an accent. Don't forget that, right? When I go somewhere and I'm in New Jersey or Texas, they're like, "Oh, you're from California, aren't you?" Yes, exactly. And if they're really attuned, they'll go Northern California, because Northern California speaks slightly different than Southern California. Point is, here's the point. When I travel to Egypt, or I'm in the Middle East, or I'm in Abu Dhabi or Oman or wherever, I'm different than they are, and I have a different perspective of thinking than they do. If I believe I'm 100% true, and my truth is the expectation, and that expectation creates these types of behaviors, and people are outside of that, I'm going to determine they're untrustworthy, which may or may not be true, because if trustworthiness is being consistent, I simply have to change my expectation of consistency to what their version is. If their version of consistency, if they're consistent to their view every single time, then they can be trustworthy within that framework. Simple. And so truth is a very challenging discussion, because we all have lots of different views and lots of different moral compasses. And that moral compass drives our expectation of truth.
Andy, I love that distinction. It's so interesting how you and I can believe two different things to be true, but we can still trust each other, even within the space of what that is, what that difference is. It's very fascinating, and I love the way you've dissected it. Russ, Frankie, and David, you guys have been incredibly patient. I appreciate it. I'm going to ask you to be even a little bit more patient. Chief Dinger, you've been posting in the bottom right-hand corner some notes. Your thought is that there is an inherent part of creation in nature that relies on this sort of notion of trust.
Well, okay. Yes.
Andy, same thing on my end. I got a call. Sorry about that. Chief, go ahead, Mike.
Oh, no problem. Awesome. So I am literally going to speak in anatomical poetry right now. In order for there to be trust, both objects of the matter have to understand the whole point. Now, that may sound like regular words and stuff, but that is at the heart of the matter. That is literally how the universe works. By understanding the whole point, you can get to the heart of matter. And it's funny because you spoke on gravity earlier.
Is that true? Because gravity, okay, let's use gravity, right? I can believe and trust in gravity, even though you can measure it in different amounts around the earth. So
Yes.
right. So Chief, so the point is, somebody may say gravity is a constant. We can then show there are variances throughout the earth. I can still trust that gravity is probably going to keep me to the earth, but I may not 100% agree with them on the complete object of what gravity is.
Oh, you're so right. You're so right. And I'm sorry to cut you off, but you have to understand that gravity is emergent once you understand the whole point. Gravity is an emergent phenomenon. In the electric universe, you literally have to have both a discharge, both a perturbation and a ground. So that is both the parties, if you want to say.
Chief, will you put that? I think you're having a small amount of lag. I don't know if anybody else is having it as well.
Yeah, he's rugged.
Connected to. Okay, I'm so sorry that's happening. Chief, that quote that you said, I love it. I love it. Like something about understanding the whole point gets you to the heart of the matter. Can you post that in the bottom right-hand corner? And Cash Money, can we pin that up top just as something for people to hear? And Andy, well heard on some of the maybe constrictions there. But really, really, interesting stuff. In the effort of time and preserving the time that we have, I'm going to keep charging forward with other hands that are up. And Andy, I know that there's still additional points that you want to sort of drive home.
Just one.
Russ, Frankie, we have not had you on the ITT. I don't think ever, my friend. If we have, forgive me. Welcome on into the community. Is there any questions, comments, thoughts, places of resonance with this whole kind of area of trust that we got to figure out? What do you think, my friend? Welcome to the stage.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I love the format. I have not been on stage or even seen this yet. I think actually I was following someone. Is he still on stage? I can't see, but that's how it got in the algorithm. So I'm happy I discovered it. I got a whole list full of notes, and I guess I had an opinion on like literally everything that was talked about. Funny enough, what Chief was saying, I was going to get him to say it again so I could write it down. Cool that it's going to be pinned, so it seems like we're all on the same
recorded
wavelength anyway. So yeah, as far as I like this format because I feel like we get to compare notes, and I'm still discovering how things are settling in my mind. So just want to go out on a limb here and say thank you for actually creating the space for this sort of thing. I do slightly disagree with Andy in some instances. Which had to, so it in terms of like my truth and other truths, and I sort of take there are some universal truths that we all agree on. Hurting people is bad and things like that, and then tying it to just trust. So I wrote down truth as the KPI of trust. So it's like almost like a measurable goal. I don't know. I have background in community development, and so if you're part of a community and you're helping push the goal or the agenda of the whole of the group, you'd be recognized as someone that is trustworthy and willing or able to hold a position that has a higher ranking within that group. So and then the other thing I wrote down, and let me know if I'm taking up too much time here because I will ramble, I promise you that. I in my own circumstance, I find that the opportunity for trust, especially in modern day society, is a bit scarce. And just because we're kind of in a day and age where we're set up to do life in certain ways and never really become super risk averse. So even I feel like you're an outlier if you're risk averse. So like being an entrepreneur, you're an outlier, especially one that becomes successful. I think the percentage is pretty low. But my point is that I believe that the precursor to trust is faith. And then faith requires risk. And then ideally to optimize on that, it's risk without plan B. And we just don't see that a whole lot. And even just the idea of it is, it would almost come off as unwise. But hindsight's only 20/20 with that sort of thing. And I like it when money is not the only thing that gets someone to be involved in what I'm doing. And if they're involved and then, we both are successful, I feel like there's way more, I don't know, like some substance to work with. It was like they joined even though there was an opportunity to fail. And then, because money does a lot. Money suffices a lot in our society. And then when someone is able to enter into a situation without that cushion and participate, even though that there is a high risk of failure, high risk of whatever. I mean, even camaraderie and how that's built in the military, it's because you're in an environment that's dangerous. And, I can say that I was in the military and I know that the worst times, that's where I made the best friends. And they're just not all, it's not encouraged to live a lifestyle that puts you on a hero's journey. And I think as a hero, those who come alongside you and want to, either align or, things like that, like those are the ones that you build trust with, but in the environments that, could be considered, risky.
And very quick, Andy, before I give you the mic to reply, which absolutely would love a reply from you, Russ, Frankie, let me just say, my friend, you give a lot of patience and a lot of respect to the other speakers. We will always extend that back to folks who come up and grab the mic, who are patient, respectful, who have something that they want to share that's on topic. I mean, this is absolutely the room for that, without a doubt. That's the whole point of the Innovators Think Tank. So I just wanted to tell you, my friend, always come up, always grab a mic, and thank you for being patient and respectful. I love what you said about true trust, 100% trust, involving this no plan D notion, that we're not creating a backup because by definition we trust it. And I thought that was an interesting note. Andy, I want to give you the mic for any reply, any thoughts that you have for Russ Frankie, just bringing up kind of personal anecdotes and also thoughts about the ideology of trust in general. What do you think, my friend?
Yes, but I do want to challenge one thing, and that is, you mentioned that if we operate within the parameters of the group, we'll get a higher ranking within the group. That is true, right? That will happen. That is the result of that type of behavior. But that is not what I'm talking about. And what I mean by that is, if you design your behaviors and your activities within the definition of what the group expects, then what you're doing is simply amplifying the group think. Whether that group think is right or wrong, you're simply amplifying it inside that group. What I'm talking about is establishing trust has nothing to do with me. You trust me or not. I cannot prove or verify or make you or force you or almost even influence you to trust me if our values are misaligned. And I have seen lots and lots of groups that did not trust me at all, and lots of groups that trust me implicitly. I am no different in either group. I'm the same today. I am going to be the same tomorrow. If you ask me the same kind of ideas last week or a month from now, you're going to get the same kind of answer. Maybe not exactly the same words today, in the future, but you're going to get the same concept, the same idea. And that is that trust is based on your perception of what you think is the right thing to do. And if I align with that, you, quote unquote, trust me. And if I do things that are outside of the parameters of that expectation, you will not trust me. And my point about trust is forget your expectations. See what they actually do. Are the other person that you're evaluating in this way, are they consistent? Do they produce the same behaviors and the same results consistently given the same inputs? If they do, they can totally be trustworthy, even if they're outside of my groupthink. But they can be trustworthy because trust is compartmentalized. It's not an overarching everything thing. It's not an umbrella term. It is a piece by piece. I trust if I kick the ball to that forward, he's going to shoot it at the goal. I trust that if the ball goes past me, the defender is going to catch it somehow. I don't have to worry that I have to then do his job as well. That's what I'm trying to say, that trust is compartmentalized and it can be built individual piece by piece. If it wasn't, there would be two things that would be absolutely false in the United States. Number one, nobody would drive on the road in the way that we currently drive because we trust other people aren't coming in our lane. We trust that people are most likely going to stay in their lane, right? But you cannot drive that way in Egypt at all, zero, because those are not the rules. Okay? They just aren't.
Andy, while you were chatting, I literally was writing on my whiteboard this all or nothing problem, your compartmentalization point. And I wrote down lines on the road because there are places where we don't share necessarily anything in common, but what relies on keeping us both alive is some paint on the asphalt.
Yeah.
Amazing. And we both pledge that, in our actions. What an amazing thing.
Yeah. Jefferson described it as the social contract. We all agree to follow the laws of the United States Constitution and all the policies and procedures that have been identified by the city, state, county, federal governments. And therefore, we all can operate within that same framework because we all, based on what Jefferson said in the Federalist Papers of the social contract, that because of the social contract, we all agree to operate in that same parameter. My point is, when you go to another country, they have a different set of social conditions that they all know, and you don't because you're a foreigner. And so you either have to learn or figure it out. It's why I get so frustrated when people come to America and then they complain about how we do things. Like, really? I've lived all over the world. I understand. I'm the outsider. I have to understand how your society and things operate. I don't complain that the drivers honk. I just recognize that's what it is.
And Andy, again, to make your point, that's something done that you have to figure out, that you have to navigate and then figure out how to give to other people in that different place that you're in. I think is just a wonderful notion. Russ, Frankie, and the other three people with their hands up. Just want to be clear on how we'll rock with this. Russ, I want to be sure you can reply to Andy and kind of share some of your thoughts on the notes that are on the table. And then David, you have been relentlessly patient. We'll go your way here in a moment. Gnostic and Grace will be the following two, and I'll facilitate this. But so you guys know your order, let's do that. Russ, Frankie, let me go your way. Any thoughts for Andy here? A really good discussion, and again, between Andy and Russ and everybody on stage, when we have level minds who can talk about these types of topics, we can really make headway. We can really, dig through some good things. So I appreciate everybody's respect and kindness to each other. Russ, Frankie, let me give you that mic. What do you got?
Yeah, I think that we just have different qualifiers for what constitutes trust. I mean, I don't, maybe I'm not dividing societal norms and, me trusting a car not to swerve. I feel like for me, it's just, it's not that I trust the other person. I just need to get where I'm going. And I don't know that person. And I'm just really, really hoping they don't swerve. But my thing is that I feel like without interaction, you can't actually build any true foundational trust. So to me, it's just, if you don't, I can't, like I see it today, we trust KOLs, we trust subject matter experts. I think it's a side effect of a life that's, we're in a time famine. We don't have time to think for ourselves anymore. So we just, get smart people to decide for us, and hopefully their ethos aligns. But I don't actually consider that trust. I feel like that's just a side effect of, Dunbar's number. You're only able to keep up with 150 working relationships in your head. And that's really just the basic stuff. Like, that's not the close relationships and things. And to me, you need interaction. Like, you need an interaction. And I would even go on as far as saying within that Dunbar number. And I think that's where trust can really be had. But I think that's where Andy and I kind of see differently.
Perhaps. I think you're right that action creates the data that then we can use to the information that we actually use to figure out if we trust something or don't. I wonder if axiomatically you and Andy are saying much similar things. Andy, I want to give you that mic if there's any feedback or notes you want to give to Russ. And I love the difference in perspective and the value each of you gentlemen are adding to this discussion. Andy, let me give you that mic. What do you got?
Totally okay to have a difference of opinion. Like I said, I'm not 100% right. I might be 90% right. I might be 10% right. And my goal is to share so that we can get closer to, making an incremental step towards being better every day.
And bless that. I mean, I love it. Russ and Andy, way to be absolute examples of how we can disagree and share our notes and look into the differences in real time. That's how we get better. The great Miles Welch, he said, if we're all saying the same thing, only one of us is necessary. Now, this would be a pretty lame space with only one person in it. Now, wouldn't it? All right, let's go over to David. David, anything that you want to share, my friend? Comments, questions, thoughts? Please feel free to grab the mic, and good to see you here on the ITT stage.
Well, thank you very much, Josh. It's a pleasure to be here, honestly. So, yeah, it's been a long time. I took 15 months away from X, but this is a reminder of what I've actually missed. So I'm greatly enjoying tonight's space. For anyone who's relatively new to ITT, I remember the old days when Josh started, and I can hear that he's still doing what he always does, which is working very hard, like a radio broadcaster. And that's really what this is. So, I've jotted down a few notes because otherwise I would go way off at tangents. So what Andy said about being in the room, I'm going to mention one guy who's done, if I remember correctly, a lot of work on cross-cultural communication. And this guy's name is Dr. Jihad Al-Umari. His surname is A-L space O-M for Mike, A-R-I. Yes, his first name really is Jihad. It's common amongst some Arab peoples. So I was particularly struck earlier on mentioning when Andy mentioned about Chinese and Japanese communities, and more recently in tonight's space, it brought up this theme of being grounded, and that got me thinking about attachment styles, and especially an anxious attachment style. And I think it should be self-evident that the more attached you are to the outcome, the worse it will be for you. And even as I say that out loud, but I noted this down, it's a reminder for me regarding a problem I've been having on X. So now, very, very important to note, if you haven't dealt with an attachment style problem, it's probably going to undo you. And there's nothing inherently wrong with having an anxious attachment style. And the thing is, if you condemn yourself for it, you just make the problem worse. Now, there's a book I recommend universally. All right, it's called The Drama of Being a Child by Alice Miller. And I'm going to reply to the tweet about tonight's space, and I'm going to put the link to it. It is not going to be an Amazon link. Just putting that out there. So Kev invited me to share what I'm working on. Well, what I'm working on most is...
And David, let me hold you up there, and just for a note, because Cash Money was right on with telling you that. We have our next segment after this one dedicated, just totally dedicated to you and anybody who wants to talk about what they're working on, who they might want to connect with, what insights and problems they're and where they're stuck right now. And as a community, we can certainly help with that. So let me go ahead and put a pin right there and allow Andy maybe to reply to some of those points. And Andy, have you heard of this book? David, post that in the bottom right-hand corner. Cash Money will pin it in the upper right-hand corner, just so we all have it. And please, my friend, do me a favor and stick around for like 10 or 20 minutes. I'd love to hear what you're working on, and we would love to have the community be able to kind of respond to that. So my apologies on maybe some of the miscomms there. Andy, let me give you that mic. Anything to add on with David? And we'll head over to Gnostic and Grace here in a minute. We have about 15 minutes left or so in this segment where we'll continue the discussion. And then, folks, before we go to AI demos, anybody in the room right now who wants to share what they're working on to get a chance to sort of in front of everybody who's here live and anybody who listens to the recording, share what you're doing, find collaborators, find partners, and so on. We'll give you that shot. Andy, mic is all yours, sir.
I have not read that specific book, The Drama of Being a Child, but I am familiar with the other author. I don't remember exactly his name. I don't want to mispronounce it, but because I lived in the Middle East in Arabic culture, and I lived in other places that are not, California or the Midwest or the South, where I grew up in the United States, I read a lot of books and took a lot of classes and spent a lot of time with my teams asking them, after establishing some level of familiarity that turned into some level of trust, like, hey, what's it like? What do I do? What am I doing wrong? How am I coming across? What I would just ask them to help guide me in that particular space, whether, and I have totally done the misstep of, I said one thing and they responded in a very particular way. I took that in the American societal kind of perspective, meaning let's keep going, double down, give me more information. And when I started to respond in that way, my team reacted like I, did something terribly wrong. And I said, okay, looks like I've done something wrong. Forgive me. Maybe I misstepped. I don't know. And they helped me understand. And what had happened was, he said, the response to the offer was, well, let me think about it. In the United States, that's give me more information. I haven't made up my mind. In other cultures in that area, especially kind of the around the Baltic Sea and areas like that, that answer really means let me think about it for 1,000 years. It's a polite way of saying no, and everybody knows it. Everyone except maybe, the big white American who didn't have a clue that what he was really saying was a polite no, thank you. I took it the wrong way and doubled down, and my team thought, about, their facial reactions told me everything, like, oh gosh, I just inserted size 12 into big fat mouth. So yes, David, I have read that author. I have read a number of those things and others, and I'm always sensitive to two things. Number one, pronouncing people's names as correctly as I'm capable of. And then secondly is being respectful for their world that I am a foreigner in, not trying to change their world to my expectations.
David, I want to thank you for posing the question, for giving literature for people to look into. That's useful. I mean, just amazing stuff. If you were here 15 months ago, my friend, you have been around for quite the journey, David. I was listening to ITTs back in the 20s. And folks, if you want any of the past ITTs, you can hit the highlights on my profile. And I just pin almost every ITT is really the only thing I pin. So all of them are there. Listening back, 15 months ago is incredible to see the way that this has grown. Every week, we just stand for the fact that there's builders all around the world who aren't surrounded by folks who give them the 2 cents that they deserve, who are as bought into them as builders, as innovators, as this community has been. And I guess just another week of proving that that's the case, that there are people building all across the globe who want to talk about great issues, who want to move their project forward, who want to connect with other like-minded and different-minded folks globally. So everybody in the room, great to have you. Feel free to post in the bottom right-hand corner anything you're working on. Gnostic, let me go your way. Any comments, questions, thoughts for Andy? Again, just a reminder for our 3 hands up. We only have about 10 to 15 minutes left to be mindful of our time before our highlight segment and AI demos. So not to say anybody shouldn't be keeping their hand up and say something. Just be mindful of that time. Gnostic, let me give you the mic, sir. What do you got?
So, Andy, while you were going through the last segment, a thought came to my mind what you're basically saying is, if you understand the culture for the individual, then that's where trust is built. So does that mean if I understand what the con man is trying to do, that I can trust the con man?
Well, I don't know if, remember, trust is, I believe that trust is made by your expectations of what other people do. If you recognize that somebody is a con man, you can trust they're a con man. Then you can make your own decisions. Does that make sense?
Oh, not only does it make perfect sense, but I have several examples of exactly that situation where I was presented with a con. I understood what the man was doing. I actually made a bargain with him, and much to my education, he kept the bargain. And I was quite stunned at that, because the bargain was basically he was trying to con me out of some money. I agreed to the con on the condition that he do something. And at that point, he actually kept his word. I trusted that I understood that I was being conned, and that if he knew I knew it was a con and paid him anyway, that there might be an interesting corollary in that I could actually trust that he would follow through on what it was. And I've had that happen several times in my life.
Exactly.
I deal with people that are interesting individuals, shall we say. And in one of them, I ran into a situation where the guy actually was basically a professional business type con person. And he presented me with something, and I gave him back conditions that would negate what was effectively the con underneath it, and said, I'll gladly write you a check and participate at this level under these conditions. And he smiled at me and he said, you do away with my advantage. Precisely. I'm now on your side of the fence, not my side of the fence, if you agree to this. And he smiled, never again presented me with a deal, but invited me to lunches and presentations and other things, and to meet other people, and became essentially a friend that actually set up network communications for me. And people always ask why you're hanging around with him. He's going to con you out of money. I said, you don't understand. I actually switched it around and tried to con him back, and now he respects me.
Yeah, it became an advocate, right? Again, I'll give you an example. We were building a network operations center for Telecom Egypt. All the NDAs have expired, so don't worry about any of that. And on the roof, we were brought up to the roof and asked, it would be really nice if we built a patio here. Well, that was way outside of the parameters of the contract. What they were really asking was, can you build us a smoking area in the shade? Right? That's all they were asking for. Because there was no other place to smoke. You can't smoke inside because you can't smoke inside where the computers are, where the big giant, we had 3-story tall screens that were basically big broadcast, it was like NASA Space Center. It was very cool. But anyway, they asked us to build, and at first we rejected it like, oh, please, this is crazy. We can't do that. It's way outside the contract. It's not in the budget. It's not in the schedule. It's not in the blah, 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 blah. And then somebody else said, if we actually build it, then everything else might go smooth and we'll finish off. If we push back on them, because in the world, that's kind of the way it is. It's kind of like the camel trading I was laughing at. They're arguing about tea, and yet they're on with their hands saying it's this much. No, it's that much. No, 3 of them. No, 2 of them. Oh, no, 2 of them. I'm not going to pay that. While they're arguing about tea and what kind of tea, whether they want sugar, do we want it now? Do we want it in 5 minutes? Why aren't we get the tea? And it's the same thing, right? But the thing is, you can't apply. It's very difficult and very dangerous to apply a moral equivalent of good or bad to that situation. It isn't good or bad. It just is. And if you can take away the hierarchy of I'm in charge, you're in charge, and be comfortable in the negotiation, be comfortable in the mud, or be comfortable in the boardroom, then it's much easier to see. By the way, you're always going to miss stuff, but it's always much easier to see those kind of things. And if you do remember that your morality and your standards of morality may not be the way everybody else is, then when you communicate with them, you can be consistent yourself, be true to yourself, over communicate what you're doing. And you can then become like Gnostic's friend, where in his own little box, he's unbelievably trustworthy to operate that way all the time, every time, consistently, 100% of the time. Therefore, you trust, if given these conditions, this is what he's going to do. 100% trustworthy in that space, right? Give him the keys to your, crypto wallet, maybe not. But in that other space, he's freaking awesome, right? This is the way it is.
Yeah, as soon as I let go of my concept of right and wrong, for a couple of these instances, I was morally outraged. Just, how dare somebody do this? But as soon as I suspended that and went to his concept of what's right and wrong and negotiated from that basis, the entire for the other guy, the entire relationship changed. But even for the guy that was trying to con me for a smaller amount of money, it was quite funny because he actually had a moral and ethical process. It just wasn't mine. And as soon as I accepted what that may be there and negotiated with him at that level, basically I put it back on him. How moral and ethical are you to your own standards? And as soon as that happened, and it was a real education to realize that, stepping out of my own assumptions and into theirs to sit down and run the negotiations. And both of these people, the smaller guy and the larger guy, both of them were quite shocked. And the guy that actually became a sort of associate and introduced me to other people really was surprised that somebody actually stepped out enough, recognized exactly what he was doing, knew exactly what he was doing, was willing to participate at his level, which he said no to. I never did participate at his level because he wouldn't. That would have been an interesting thing if he had. But as soon as I said I'm willing to participate at your level, his answer was no. But he understood that I understood exactly what he was doing. Never approached it again. Never said it again. Never expected anybody I introduced to him. And this is one of the oddities of the whole thing. I would introduce him to somebody, and he would not do the con on that person. And by con, I mean it's just a set of business stuff that doesn't work properly. But he wouldn't do it. And this was also part of his ethos. A friend of mine was a friend of his, and he would not do it. And I just the concept of the stability of that quite stunned me because it was not mine. It had nothing to do with me. I didn't think it would work this way. And I was, it was an education to step out of myself and see it from the perspective you're talking about. And I always remember that because it was so poignant at the time and so quite starkly different from anything I'd dealt with previously.
To have real world experience to kind of see through the points that you're making, Andy, and that type of resonance, I mean, how valuable for a room with nearly 90 innovators in it. And before we go to Grace, I just want to say to folks in the room, you're in a place called Innovators Think Tank, and a lot of you build individually, you build solo, and there's folks in this room right now who have diverse skill sets, different backgrounds, and know things that you don't. I want to just take a moment and say, if you're in the room and if you haven't posted in the bottom right-hand corner, saying who you are, what you're building, and why even show up to something called the Innovators Think Tank, that's a great thing to do. And if you have already done that, go through the bottom right and see other people who have posted. Look to your left and right. You have good friends now in this room. Take advantage of that. Grace, good to see you. I mean, as always, you're kidding me. Welcome on to the ITT stage. Is there anything that you want to share? Any questions, comments, or thoughts on this idea of trust? We'll go ahead and give you the mic. So good to see you.
Trust is huge. And Josh, you hold the stage. I think everybody should come and learn how you hold the stage and you're trustworthy. And what more important topic for such a time as this to speak about truth and trust. And though I don't know you real well, you've been characterized. It's all about our character. And we're coming to a time, AI or no AI, that people are looking for some voice that they can trust. And they're watching, what are you characterized by? Andy, you have the fortune and the misfortune of being someone that I love to hear. I love being in a room with thinkers, and that's why I feel like a little girl in the room with more questions than answers. But Andy and when I I met you in Think Tank a few years ago. I mean, a long time ago. And then, as God would have it, I turned out following you just before your account went down. And I was the one who tried to, I was going to meet with you and the account went down. And it linked me to something weird and all of that. And look at you rebuilding. And I trust but verify, and I never question you, but there was just like, I question everything. I question everybody, but I try to trust but verify. And so I was watching you, and I'm just not a super serious businesswoman. I'm a grandmother of 8. So I did want to bring up a couple of quick quotes. And I loved the fact that Russ brought up faith and fidelity. And that makes me think of, I want to be in God's kingdom. It does come back to faith, because if I can live with myself and be honest at the end of the day and sleep well, in the end of my life, know that I did the best I could and I was honest with people, that honesty will come back. There will be things that happen, like what happened with Andy, that are out of his control, and he doesn't know what people think because of tech issues or something, or somebody that works for an organization. And after 30 years of marriage, I had car accident, concussion on a trip, and we find out a lot about a lot of things when we have nothing left but God. And because I trust God, I can be in a room like this and have my mind continuing to expand and try to understand these great minds, how we can work together to bring heaven down to earth. So that's some of my thoughts, and congratulations on the fathers in the room, because good fathers are what's missing. People will look for love in the wrong places. Take care of your health. It's your greatest wealth. And so that's why I'm outside barefoot, and that's what I promote. And one day I will be starting I'm on a pre-launch of something, just trying to bring health to the world. So I hope everybody's laughing and spending some time in nature, and do call that person that, stop and think for a minute today before the end of the day. Call somebody that has made a difference in your life, and maybe it's someone in this room. Be accountable with somebody. You don't want to get the phone call that I got that my son had died. So I buried 2 sons 30 years apart, and because of faith, because I trust God, I can keep smiling and laughing and dancing. And my grandchildren think I'm grand, and most people that I meet face to face. But Twitter, if you can do it on Twitter, I tell you what, you can do it anywhere.
Amen. Amen to that.
Thank you, Josh. You're amazing. And because my son up in heaven is Josh, I just amazed that you remember me, and like I haven't been here probably for, I don't know, months. But
oh my gosh, I could never forget you. Grace, you are one of the favorite voices of mine that come up and wear on your sleeve what you're thinking, and your faith, and your love for people and your family. To me, that's so meaningful. That is just incredible. There's so many people who won't stand up for what they believe in, and you do. And just so you know, you always have a spot on this stage. Anytime, we will not forget you, and you're welcome to grab this mic anytime you want.
Well, God brought me back here to send you a hug and tell you to keep romancing your wife, because that's what the children need more. If you want to be a good parent, resolve your conflict with your spouses, ideally at the end of the day, and keep looking in their eyes as if it's the last time or the first time. Take that beautiful time to just, you'll be grateful that you take the time to appreciate the people and love somebody who's hard to love. They need it more than ever. When you hear their stories, you both will rise. That's what keeps me going, is cheering up other people. I love you. Thank you for this time. I have nothing that this world would want it. I do have a computer that I won. I live a magical, wonderful life, but I will not sell my soul, and I will not sell. I can't be bought. I proved
Grace, just keep doing your thing. The world's better off for it.
Oh, Andy, hugs and love.
Oh man, so many hugs your way, and thank you for stopping by.
I guess my question for Andy is, what? I'm not sure something about when did you feel? How do you feel like trust? Your own personal trust has changed. I know you've been married a long time. So going back to how you learned about being trustworthy and being a man, tell us more about that. Just where you got your trust base from. I don't know if that makes sense, but just I'd love to know maybe your earliest happy memory. That's my favorite question.
I understand. First, The most important thing is Proverbs 3:5 in this particular scenario. Trust in the Lord and his understanding. Lean not on your own. Right? I slightly changed it. Please forgive me. It's not the King James version. It's not NIV. It's a little different. But the point is, God is consistent in as a Christianity. The Bible, the God of the Bible is consistent, predictable, dependable, and doesn't fail. Doesn't challenge you, doesn't test you, doesn't put you under scrutiny, gives you opportunities for you to succeed and to recognize where you're going to fail. Okay? And if you lean on your own understanding, which is what most of us do, then what will happen is eventually you will fail in some catastrophic way because you don't recognize how everything works. You only recognize how the things you can see work. And so God's wisdom is across the universe, the things we can see, we can't see, things that we don't even know about yet that we're still discovering. God already figured that out, put it in place, put it there for us to find, to prove that he has and knows everything. This is my own testimony. So you can just take that for what it's worth. So
Andy, part of the reason you're here is for your testimony, my dear friend.
Fantastic. Okay, well, let me finish. Okay, well, let me finish. Okay, so because I failed in business. I've started, I think, 13 or 14 businesses that all failed. Then I started another business reluctantly because I had no options. And that business succeeded when I turned off my imagination of what it should be and started looking at how things actually are. That started my brain thinking about, oh, well, maybe I have this perspective of the world, these glasses that I look through, maybe I need to take them off and see the world for true it truly is, and reserve my own judgment of what I'm seeing to then what it actually is. And when I started doing that, because I had started a consulting company, I started doing IT consulting in various ways. I got asked to go here, called, hey, we have this thing over here. Hey, I heard you're finishing your project. We've got this other giant mess. Can you please come help us? Hey, I know you're over there. Can you please come back and help us finish this thing? It's going to go bigger and we need someone like you. All of those projects were requests of me. And because of that, every time I would go into a new situation, I mean, I've done every classic failure you can do. I've said, oh, this is going to fail. It didn't. It succeeded. Oh, this is going to succeed. Oh, it didn't succeed. It failed. Oh, this is what's going to happen. Oh, we're going to get funding. Oh, we're not going to get funding. Every time I was convinced I was wrong until I backed up and said, what do I think they're going to do? What behaviors are they doing that I can see and track and maybe project some kind of expectation of what they're going to do, not what I think they're going to do, but what are they actually going to do? And then start looking at things from that perspective. Then all of a sudden, for some amazing reason, when I didn't lean on my thoughts and I leaned on my observations, oh, guess what? It was really easy to see how things were going to succeed. Pretty easy to figure out who was nervous and who was upset. Pretty easy to get an entire here, the worst project I've ever been on. Worst meaning the most challenging one, the one that was about ready to fail every moment. I was in a go, no-go meeting with VP level executives of a giant publicly held company. Like, you know who they are. If I told you, you would know who they are. I might have mentioned it in the past. Or we had a go, no-go meeting every day, 6 months. Sundays, 7 days a week for over 180 days that I had to go to a meeting and prove that what we did today was good enough to continue tomorrow on a like $350 million project. Been there, done that. And the day I thought I was going to die, showed up in a suit and tie. They're like, why are you all dressed up? I'm like, if they're going to kill us, I'm going to look good when I die. Okay. Been there, done that, got the scars. And so Grace, to answer your question, when I stopped looking inside and determining from my filter what was going to happen, and I took my filter glasses off and I observed what was happening, and I started to track and write what they said, what they were doing, probably what I felt when they said it. That's when the difference happened. That's when I started to see things like I'm talking about.
Grace, I love having you on stage because there are so many dimensions of what it means to be an innovator. There's so many different pillars and elements, and you certainly hold a core piece of what it means to be an innovator. And I love the questions you bring in. Andy, thank you for sharing that, my friend. And as I was saying, your testimony is the reason that this segment is carved out with your name on it, because we love it, my friend. Thanks for being here. Russ and Johnny, let me just say, I'm going to give you guys both, if it's okay, about 30 to 60 seconds a pop for a question, a comment, or a thought. We need to start putting a pin in this expert segment. I will say to anybody who is planning on coming up for Innovator Highlights to share about what you're working on and who you might want to connect with, please send a DM to Cash Money right now, our co-host. We're going to get a line together, and we're going to have a couple people and make sure that we're set to do that. We don't want to, kind of toss time that we have here together out the window. It's very valuable. So if we have a couple folks who want to come up and share, we'll do that. If not, we'll go right into live AI demos. As I noticed, a few people who were going to share may have had something else come up. I do not see them in the room. Russ, Frankie, we'll go over to you. And then Johnny, you guys will be the last two speakers here for this expert segment. And just kind of be conscious of the clock here. Russ, Frankie, Mike is all yours, sir.
Yeah, thanks. I was going to jump in right after Gnostic. Then Grace, the personification of Grace, showed up. Loved everything she was saying. It's funny because I feel like I see Andy as like a big bro, and I want to butt heads just for the sake of it, because it's like it'll be good for our relationship. But what Gnostic was saying kind of got me thinking, and it almost made me consider needing to adjust my thoughts on how I approach this concept of trust. But I don't know. I still see trust as like a caliber, and I feel weird if I put like trust in a box, and it feels almost more transactional if I'm like, I can get this out of this person as long as I trust them in this little square here. And I like to think like the ultimate trust is allowing someone to babysit my kids, and it's like my way of measuring how much I actually trust someone. And so I don't know. It's a different framework. I'll leave it there. I love all the opinions. Great space. I'm gonna come back. Thanks for having me.
Russ, Frankie, you better come back, my friend. We love having you here. Like I said, anybody who comes and grabs the mic and has that level of respect and love for the game, you add more value by being here on the stage and letting folks see into your thinking. And when you share it, it's sort of that old idea in school when you ask a question, you don't know who you help. Andy, let me give you the mic. Anything that you want to share with Russ, and then we'll go to Johnny, and we're going to start putting a sunset here in a moment. Talk about another incredible segment. Anything that you want to share before we go to our last question?
Yeah, I'm totally fine with the big brother vibes. I am the big brother. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. I'm the oldest in my wife's family. And things like when there are funerals and everybody else is emotional, I'm the one that gives the talks. And when there's a problem and people need help, they have a tendency to dial my phone and say, what's going on? And here's my situation. How can we help? And so if I'm giving off the big brother vibes, it's because that's who I am and that's who I've always been. It wasn't my choice. It's just the way God put me in the world. And so I totally understand that. And I love butting heads with family. You know why? Because that means you really are family. If you are willing to go toe to toe with me, well, then let's go. You can come right in and be part of the fold. And that also means that if anybody ever goes after you, yeah, they got to go through me too.
And I love the reciprocal love and respect from both of you gentlemen. I'll double down, Russ, with you. Andy does give off big brother vibes. And if he's the big brother of the ITT, man, we're much better off for it. Johnny, let me go your way. Any questions, comments, thoughts, points of resonance, or anything, my friend? So good to see you. What do you got before we start putting a pin in this expert segment? Any questions or comments?
I just want to say thank you. This has been an amazing space, and thank you, Andy, for elaborating. Josh, hosting. This is wonderful. Trust for me is looking people in the eye normally. You know, you can get a read on people. When you interact with people, that's always been my bread and butter. It's very hard, you know, again, to navigate digital world, which, again, I'm guilty of learning new things all the time, knowing my surroundings and what's going on. But I'll tell you, what I do trust is consistency, right? And character, right? So if I don't even like the guy, I don't judge the guy, but if I know that's who he is, I'm okay with it because I know that's them. They're consistent. That's the character. That's who they are. That's just what it is, right? The judge part, I think, can throw people off of trust, which is one thing that I hate to do because, again, you don't know what you don't know, and everybody's got a story and situations, and they, you know, again, Andy said it great, when it's like, in this box, I can trust you. What if I put you in this situation? Would you build the guy a roof deck? You know, do you trust me enough there? Can we lean a little bit? You know, like, you got to work with what you got and know the parameters. And sometimes we don't know the parameters, so we just do the best we can. But I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate this space and everybody in the room. And yeah, I look forward to learning more as we go along. Thank you.
Johnny, we appreciate you, brother. The fact that you're coming up and sharing those notes and giving love and sharing your perspective is exactly why this room exists. This is why the room is open. And I appreciate the thanks that you're giving, you know, to me. I would just extend all that to Andy for such a wonderful segment, and would just invite you to come back week after week to be part of what we're doing here, of the movement, of the mission in general. So great to have you. Andy, let me give you the mic. Anything you want to do to respond to Johnny on his notes would be great. And then, I mean, to talk about a great expert segment, talk about going in many directions and pulling apart this onion of trust. And hopefully folks in the room, and I know I do, sort of understand it better, or at least understand it more broadly. And with that, can hopefully contemplate and assess and make progress even after this space. Andy, let me give you the mic, my friend. Anything that you want to share to Johnny, and then feel free to go right on into some closing notes.
Oh, well, thanks, Johnny. I mean, we've been friends for a while, and you've been following me, and I see you on the spaces, and I appreciate all of that. I always appreciate the conversation. I'm not sure if I'm perfectly correct on everything. In fact, I'm pretty sure I'm wrong to some degree, a little bit or a lot. And so I'm always willing to listen and be corrected and adjust. And that has been a superpower that has allowed me to continue to just be able to be employed and able to be for people to hire me and to hire my company and to do other things. Right now, just so you know, this whole segment, I have been live streaming my big fat head on my X live stream, on Twitch, my Twitch channel, and on my YouTube channel. So if you just want to see this segment again, you can go there. If you want to hear the entire recording, you can go back and listen to that as well. But Johnny, thank you so much for the great words. And let me just give you a quick recap. I started the whole thing by saying I was introduced to a group of people in a foreign country as the guy that you can go ahead, if you get called away and you need somebody to watch your house, watch your kids, make sure your wife's taken care of and your kids are taken care of, that everybody's fed, that everything's safe, Andy's your guy. That was how I was introduced in a foreign country. Whether they took it or not, it's not the point. That started me thinking about what exactly does trust mean, because we were in a situation where we found things that were inappropriate, that we thought were inappropriate in our offices. We found things that you would probably get freaked out about on your computer. We found people following us around and with cameras and, you know, all of that kind of crazy stuff, right? So I started to think, literally, when I was introduced like that, in that scenario, in that environment, I started to wonder, what exactly does trust mean? And that was a long time ago. And the result today is all of that combined into here's what is trust. Trust is not what you think it is. It's what they think it is. And the definition of trust can be historical and classical, but in the Bible it says, lean on, trust in God, not on your own understanding. And so it was really hard for me being from an educated family, from an academically educated family, to say, I don't know, maybe I should figure it out differently. What is trust? Trust is what they think. It's the receiver's choice. Is likability more important than trust? I don't know. Maybe, sort of. I do a whole thing on likability. We can talk about that another time. What are the challenges to building trust? The challenge is they don't have the same moral compass as you. And so what do you do about it? Okay, what can you do? There's only two things you can do. Number one, trust is built through your own consistent behavior. And you can prove to people that you are consistent in whatever box they decide to put you in. And if you are consistent in that box, you will receive other people's trust, guaranteed, 100%. Part of that's showing up. Part of that's just being available. Part of that is what you say and what you do and your behavior when you deliver, right? So here's my call to action for you, for everybody listening on whatever, the live streams. If you're listening to this in now, future, whatever, you're listening to the recording, you're listening to a thing, you listen to a transcript, you're reading it. Here's my call to you. Focus on your personal consistency and integrity, regardless of what other people say, do, or trust in you. Because again, I have done the same thing, been the same guy, said the same things, delivered the same results. And one organization thought I was the bee's knees and awesome. And the other organization thought I was a psychopath and crazy person and needed to be out of their organization as fast as possible. No difference in me, 100% difference in them. I can't control anybody else, right? So focus on your own personal consistency and integrity. Don't worry about what other people say. Don't worry about what other people do. And if you want to amplify your own consistency and integrity, write, post, build your personal brand through talking, through being on spaces, through asking questions, through your posts, through your articles, through your blog, whatever, so that when people hear you the first time, they go, who is this guy? Who is this bald dude with glasses? The hell does he think he is? Let me go check. And they Google you. Do they find what you want them to find? Do they find anything at all? That's going to amplify your personal brand. So in conclusion, trust is built through consistency, but it has nothing to do with you. It has to do with their perception of the behavior from their worldview, or whether they trust you or not. You can't change that. You can only be who you are. If you change yourself to be them, to work within their world, you will destroy everybody else who believes that you are what they thought you were. And so then you have a problem. The only thing you can do is to be yourself all the time, the unfiltered, true, stumbling, fumbling, non-perfect human. That is the way we succeed today, going through the new kind of AI world pivot perspective of, those new filters. AI can write better than me, can create better than me, can do stuff better than me, but it can't be me. I'm the only me there is. You are the only you there is. Bring 100% of you, 100% of the time, flaws and all, right? My sisters, my brother, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-laws, my brother-in-laws, all of them flawed, but they're family. You go after them, go after me. All right. Thank you again, Josh. Appreciate it. For everybody, make sure you follow the Innovators Think Tank. I'm going to put the video back up on my live stream so you can see what the website looks like. Make sure that you sign up for that. Follow the hosts. Follow the Innovators Think Tanks. Turn on the alerts from Cash and Sharon and Mattia, who's not here. And thank you, Josh, for the invitation again. Thank you for all the speakers. I really appreciate it. I am grateful to the bottom of my soul. Thank you.
Wow. I mean, Lord knows if we were all in person.
And thanks for everybody who's watching online. We're going to close off the stream now. This has been the Innovators Think Tank, my talk for that on trust. If you want anything, DM trust to me and ask me if you have any questions, if you want any notes, if you want the show highlights, or if you're looking for anything else, make sure you just send me a note, reach out, and I will be happy to engage with you and talk about stuff in the future. If not, join the Innovators Think Tank. They're a bunch of fantastic guys. And again, thanks a lot. Have a great day. Bye-bye.